You have a story. You have a story, and it totally matters. You have a grief story that totally matters. You have a love story that totally matters. You have a mother daughter relationship, and that totally matters. You have a mama fur baby story, and it totally matters. What is your story? What's your story between you and your husband? What's your story between you and your dad? What is your grief story? Your story matters, friends. I'm not talking about that polite one that you tell the people at the bank when you say, I'm so sorry, I have to tell you that my dad died. And you don't go into the details and you don't cry. Not that one. Not the one where you skip the messy parts. Not the ones where you fight back the tears. Not that story. Not the story that you don't want to tell because you don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. Not the story where you don't tell whether they took their own life or not. You leave it blank. Excuse me. I'm not talking about that story. I'm talking about the real story. The raw one. The ugly one. The messy one. The one that lives in your body right now. The one that you haven't shared with anyone. Wow. The one that broke you open. The one that still doesn't make sense. The one that still doesn't make sense sometimes. The one that you're scared to say out loud. The reality of what has just happened to you. I mean, the true reality of that story. The story that's underneath, I lost my husband. There's something underneath that. The story that's underneath, I lost my child. Today we're going to talk about that story. Your grief story. Why are we going to talk about it? Because you need to tell your story. You need to tell your grief story. Number one, and most importantly, you need to tell your story to you. Your story is not important for anyone else but you. Now, will your story help others? 100%. Will the moment that you found out and what it felt like help other people, other grievers, other grieving women? 100%. But you need to tell your story. You need to tell what happened. You need to tell what happens when you don't tell your story and how sharing your truth can help you begin to heal. You need to share how this story is going to help you. This story, my friends, is your journey with your person. This is part of your story and part of your journey. I was born on January 13th, 1963. To a man and a woman, Tony and Loretta. And my journey with them began really from the time they conceived me, but it began that day with all three of us together. And my journey with that man, my father, ended when I was 53 years old. I walked a journey with him for 53 years. I walked a journey with him for 53 years. And when that journey ended, the physical aspect of it, there was more to the story. There was more to my grief story with him. There was more to my journey with him. My journey didn't just end the day that he died. Our story together continued on. It continues on to this day. He is still my dad. I still talk about him. I still share about him. And he will be my dad until the day I die. Here's the other thing. When I die, his journey doesn't end. His story doesn't end because he has grandchildren who are here. Grandchildren that absolutely knew him, who had a relationship with him, who called him grandfather. His journey is part of their lives. Our story doesn't end the day that our persons die. I do not know what's going on with my throat, but all of a sudden I got this coughing fit. Welcome to Healing Starts with the Heart. I'm Sharon Brubaker, and I'm a grief specialist. I'm the founder of the Grief School, the place where healing begins. And either you're listening to my podcast and you've been following me through there for a while, or you're new here, or you got the book, Grieve That Shit, and you downloaded this podcast. Whatever that is and how you found me, I'm glad that you're here. And please excuse me for having this coughing fit. I don't know where it came from. When someone dies, when we lose something or someone that meant so much to us in the world, they meant so much to us, everything changes. Where I'm alluding to now and what I'm trying to get to is that your grief story is not just the main story that everyone sees. Your husband died, your child died, your fur baby died, you lost your job, your house went into foreclosure, you had to file bankruptcy, you had miscarriage, you have infertility. All of those come from the list of grievances that our heart can feel. Whether it's one of those or something that I didn't even list, there's a story there. And that story is yours. And it's yours to tell, it's yours to take care of, and it's yours to honor. In the moment when you got the call, a new story begins for you. Whether you got a call, you were there, you witnessed it, or someone told you, or you knew it was coming. Here's the thing that no one tells you about your grief story. It's not just what happened to you. It's what you felt. It is what you've lost. It is what broke you wide open. And it is the parts that stay unsaid to this day. In the moment that you got the call, for me, for Austin, it was a call. For Donovan, it was a call. For my dad, it was a diagnosis. For Sharon, it was a diagnosis. The moment that you got the call, the moment that you got the diagnosis, the moment that the silence followed, the night that took your breath away, the day you couldn't stop being the person you were before because she doesn't exist anymore. Your grief story is sacred, and it's sacred for you, and it holds the truth. And if you don't get to tell it and really dig down deep into it and really tell it and really sit with your body like a weight within the story, and that weight will start to shape your new life. If you don't do that, your story goes unheard, my friend. And if your story goes unheard, it will never go anywhere but dormant within your body. It will lay in dormant and wait until you're ready to tell that story. And that story holds your truth. So let's talk about what it means to tell the world this story. What does it mean to share your story with the world? Sharing your story with the world is the place where healing begins. Does that mean I want you to stand on a soapbox and yell out your story to everybody? No. It means that in a small group, or one-on-one, or with a sister, or with someone you really trust, you can open up and tell the parts of your story. And that's what healing will look like. It is when you go into that story, you find all of the parts that are incomplete, that needed to be completed. Every single person has an experience, has experienced loss, and has a grief story. And for some of us, we hear these stories over and over again, but we didn't realize it's the story they're trying to tell, right? When we have a girlfriend and she's talking about that breakup of that romantic relationship from 3 years ago, and she keeps talking about that dude, and it really is driving you crazy, that's her grief story she's trying to get out. My friend at work, my colleague at work, all he talks about is his divorce. He's been divorced 25 years. All he talks about is his first wife. And he talks about her so poorly. And he talks about her all the time. And no matter what we're talking about, he always brings her up. It's his grief story. He has something to say about that. And every time I'm with Eric and Lewis and we're with the family, Donovan or Austin come up. Either from me, one of my kids, from them. It's our grief story. It's our story with Austin. It's our story about Donovan. And we bring it up quite often. And we're very comfortable with it. And we love our story. Because we love our people. And we love talking about them. But for you, I want you to understand that every person has experienced loss. Who has experienced loss has a great story. And it began the moment something broke. It might have been a call. It might have been a diagnosis. It may have been an accident. It was their final breath. It was the decree when the divorce papers were signed. It was the doctor telling you will never be able to have another baby. It was the moment you were left, betrayed, abandoned, or shattered. It was the moment that you were left. You were betrayed, you were abandoned, or shattered. And from that moment on, your brain starts writing this. Your body starts recording everything, every single thing. It starts recording every single thing. It takes pictures of everything. It puts it into the memory. It is the smartest computer that you have, this brain, the way it takes care. It codes, records, and saves everything you see, feel, and hear. And it has done it for your entire life. But once you have experienced this abandonment, it starts recording everything around. And from that moment on, your brain starts writing this story. Your body starts recording it. Your memory holds on tight. It doesn't just remember what happens. It remembers what didn't happen, what wasn't said, what people didn't show up for you, the words that don't get said, the apologies that never came, the goodbyes that you did not get, the screams that you swallowed down. Grief isn't just about the loss. It's about what was left behind after the loss. It is about what was left behind after the loss. Your story is where all of this lives. Your grief story is not just about who you lost or how they died or how you lost them. It's about who you are now. Who are you without them? Who are you without them on this journey? I didn't just lose Donovan. I didn't just lose Austin. I didn't just lose Sharon. You didn't just lose a person. You lost your best friend. You lost your protector. You lost the one that understands you and totally gets you. You lost the one who would show up for you, no matter what time you called, without words. I lost this version of myself that doesn't exist anymore. I lost the daily rituals. I lost our future. I lost the we. Now I'm just a me. Not just, but I'm we. I lost the sense of being fully seen. I lost the plans we had for the future. And friends, when you sit down in the bank and you're talking to the teller and you start telling that story, all of that is not part of the story. That's part of the story that we rarely tell. It never makes it into conversation with strangers. But it's the part that we're grieving. But we don't share that part. We don't share that part with people, with family, with friends. Why? Why do we avoid that part of the story? It's the most important part. Why do we not tell it? Now sometimes we do go there in grief support. Like in grief study hall, I can see grievers really going there. Here's where it gets hard. Most people never tell their full grief story. They tell a version of it. They tell one that fits in the box. They tell one that society can accept. The one that makes the other people feel comfortable. They'll tell that story all day long. But the one that makes them feel uncomfortable, they're not telling that. Yeah, he passed away last year. Yeah, we lost our baby. Oh, she was sick for a very long time. Thank you. Thank you. But we don't say she was sick for a very long time. I never left her side. She was throwing up every day. I was so scared. I was holding her hand when she died. We don't say that. We don't say, I don't know who I am without her any longer. I have no one to go to the mall with me with anymore. We had plans of going on a train ride to Canada, and now I'm not going to be able to do that. They never talk about what it did to them. They don't say I lost myself. They don't say I still hear the machines in the hospitals running. They don't say I'm angry that she left. We don't say that because we don't talk that way. Why? Because society doesn't give us the space to talk that way. And when they don't give us the space to talk that way, we tend to hide the story. And from hiding the story is what makes the grief compound. Hiding the story is what makes it grow deeper. And part of that is because we are told not to. There's no space for us. There's a space if we want to be grateful. There's a space if we want to be quiet and not talk about it. There's a space if we want to show up as strong. There's a space when we pretend that we're done. Oh, there's plenty of space for that. But telling that I sat there and watched them take off the toe tag and take off the plugs off of her head, there's no space for that. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that you don't know who you are without her. But holding that story inside doesn't make the pain smaller. It actually makes it heavier. Hear me out. Holding that story inside doesn't make the pain smaller. It actually makes it heavier. And here's the thing. People are saying, I'm going to grieve for the rest of my life. And this is why. Because they don't have a place to put the dang story. We don't have anywhere to put it. So we get told that we're going to grieve for the rest of our life. And we believe that shit. You're not protecting anyone by hiding your grief story. You're not protecting yourself by burying your own healing. And when we bury it, we bury all the other things we lost too. We can't say their name out loud because it makes people feel uncomfortable. We lose the ability to process our grief story in public in front of anyone. We cannot just let a few tears cry because that is not appropriate. We lose the chance to feel understood, heard, while on this this unique grief healing journey. We didn't just lose our person. We lost the safety. We lost the safety that they gave us. We lost the future. We lost the future we imagined to be true. We lost the future of us being together, the house we were going to buy on the hill. We lost the way we felt in their presence, safe and protected. Your story needs space for all of that. I teach a lesson called Your Grief Story in Processing the Pain of Grief. It's actually the last lesson that I teach. And I have some questions that go along with that. And I grab them out because I want you to be able to figure out your own grief story. Who were you before the loss? Who were you before the loss? You were a mom. I was a wife. I was a daughter to an amazing man. Who are you now? Who were you before the loss, and who are you now? What did you lose? What did you lose? What did you gain? What do you believe about yourself before the loss that you no longer believe? What is important for you to know now that wasn't important before? What aspects of your person have you lost that no one sees? What do you believe about the world now that they are lost, now that they are gone? Has your grief shaped the way you see yourself now? I love those questions because that's where we actually get down deep into really realizing who we were. Something powerful happens when we speak our grief out loud. Something powerful happens to us. We start to hear ourselves. We hear ourselves share the thing that is so painful. We start to feel that thing that we've been trying to outrun. We give ourselves permission to exist in the story instead of editing it for someone else's comfort. When you name the pain, sadness, bitterness, broken, anger, frustration, you give voice to that heartbreak. And when you give voice to the heartbreak, you can create the space for healing. When you tell the story and tell it exactly as it is, he left me, he abandoned me, he had an affair, and I'm heartbroken, you give space for healing. You create space for your body to stop holding on all by itself. And that, my friend, is the most beautiful part. When you tell the truth, you invite others to tell their truth too. If I start to share my grief and you're sharing your grief, the connection is huge. Gives you permission to say, me too. That happened to me too. And now I'm not alone. And now I don't feel so alone. And thank you for being here. Friends, if you walk away with anything, I want you to walk away with this. Your grief story isn't finished. It evolves. At first, it might be sharp and raw and full of rage, and that's okay. But over time, we know that it will soften. Then it questions. Then it remembers. Then it remembers something beautiful. You might not be ready to talk about the good memories, and that's okay. You might not be ready to look at the photos. You might only feel the pain right now. And still, that is part of your story. Feeling the pain is part of your story. But here's the thing I promise you. There will come a time when you will look back and see your strength. There will also come a time where you will look back on this journey and see beauty in it. I know you don't want to hear that right now, but I promise you there will be. When you see love underneath the ache, when you see all the people who did show up for you, and the part that they could contribute. When you can say, that broke me, but it didn't end me. And every time you tell your story, it changes just a little bit because you are changing and you are forever changed. Here's the most important part. This grief story is yours and no one else can tell it. No one else can live it and no one else can heal it. No one else gets to clean it up and no one gets to decide when it's over and what the story is. So take it back. Speak it out loud. Write it down. Say what you never got a chance to say. And if you have nowhere else to start with your story, I want you to start here. This is what happened. This is what I felt. And this is what I still carry. This is what happened. This is what I felt. And this is what I still carry. Write it out. I promise you, healing lives inside of those words. And if you need help saying them, I want to invite you to come to the Grief School, where we host space for you. Inside of the Grief School, you can find all of my social media connections where I go live 4 times a week. You can find the Facebook group. You can also find Grief Study Hall, which is an amazing place that where I give back to the community of women who are grieving, where we sit and we talk about the pain. We talk about grief stories. And also there is Processing the Pain of Grief, where I show you absolutely how to process this pain. I have many programs that I teach with inside the Grief School, but Grief Study Hall and Processing the Pain are 2 great places to begin. Friends, I don't know if you found me from the book Grieve That Shit, or you're listening to the podcast and you've been around. Either one of them, I want to say thank you and welcome. I want to let you know that I see you, that I am you, and I'm so truly honored that you're here. I'll see you in the next podcast. Thank you, friends.